Hi everybody, Jason back again. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a book review, and the book that we're going to be talking about is Star Wars Bloodline by Claudia Gray. So if you are familiar at all with the Star Wars, I want to say extended universe, Star Wars has had books in creation for a very long time. The basic gist of it is that people were so hungry for Star Wars type stories that people started writing like fan novels, and then eventually those became canon, and they were supported by Lucasfilm and endorsed. And then the other people were basically working together to create like the expanded universe, and create stories about Luke, Han, and Leia and their adventures, past Return of the Jedi. Obviously, those stories became not canon anymore when they started talking about releasing Episode 7. But the stories still exist. There's lots of them. And even now, I still like quite a lot of them in comparison to even books like this. But so this book is obviously part of the new canon, and it's very good. So the way that I heard about this book was I saw it in a YouTube video, and basically they were talking about the fact that Star Wars Bloodlines deals with how Kylo Ren finds out about Darth Vader being his father. And so obviously that deals with, Ben Solo finding out when he's younger that not that Darth Vader is his father, but that is his grandfather. That's a completely different storyline. It basically said that it dealt with how Ben finds out that Darth Vader is related to him in his family, and why he basically, kind of joins that First Order movement. But regardless, it doesn't actually deal with him at all. Leia talks about him inside the book, but you don't actually get to see him at all in the story either. It actually deals strictly with Princess Leia, and that's a good thing. Claudia actually did a really good job of portraying Leia exactly the way that I feel like she should. A very strong, independent woman. Strong, independent female. No, she's portrayed very well, and it's very true to the character. And the thing that I think, first off, is that while you have the Legends, Legacy, or like old canon, where they dealt pretty heavily on like Luke Skywalker and also Han Solo, I mean, you didn't really get to see too much of Princess Leia. And you didn't really get to see too much of Princess Leia even in The Force Awakens, but this one definitely takes a very large stab at her as a character, and they really develop her quite well. It is really quite believable that that's who Princess Leia is. Like, that's who she becomes when she's 20 years older than what she was at the end of Return of the Jedi. She has definitely matured. She definitely sees things in a different light with her experiences in the Rebel Alliance, and she's had some time as a member of the Senate in the New Republic. So like she could be considered like a little bit jaded. She definitely sees that there are problems, and she wants to try to help fix them. But she's also at a point in her life where she doesn't know if she wants to continue going on as a member of the Senate, because she knows that eventually the Senate could break down. And the main reason for this is this story introduces the fact that there are two main factions within the Senate. There's Populace, which is what Princess Leia is, and Populace basically want to let people govern their own planets by themselves, and then have the Senate as basically a committee to help deal with larger issues. And then there's the Centralists, which one of the other main characters that they introduce, Ransom Casterfo, and basically the centrists are all sort of on the side of maintaining power across the entire galaxy and enforcing from a central location. And very, very similar to what it's like with the Empire, where there's the Supreme Chancellor, and basically somebody makes bigger decisions for all of the planets rather than letting the planets manage themselves. But that's the major overarching story that's going on. It's the populace versus the centrists. And it's very clear that Princess Leia sees that there's an issue with the Senate. And before I go any further, mind you, spoilers, I'm going to talk about things that are in the book and that could potentially spoil it for other people. So if you are interested in reading it, don't watch. Or at least if you do continue watching, please understand that the things that I'm going to say, even though I will try to remain as vague as possible, uh, are actually going to deal with stuff that actually happens in the book, and I don't really want to ruin it for you. But like I said, I'm going to try to remain as vague as I possibly can, but some issues I am actually going to talk about. Uh, so characters in the book, you got Princess Leia and C-3PO. He tries to be important, but as usual, he's kind of relegated to the sidelines. And then you've got a little bit of Han Solo towards the end, but you really don't have any of the other characters. You don't see Chewbacca, you don't see Luke, and you definitely don't see Ben. You are introduced to quite a few other characters. I want to say like a nice handful of them. Casterfo, for one, is definitely a main part of the story. He's very integral in what happens. And then there is Greer, one of her assistants, and then there's also Coruscella, which I believe that she's actually tied to episode 7, in that one of the deleted scenes, she's actually on the planet when it gets destroyed. And then they also introduce you to a character called Joff Sea Striker, which I found is a very weird, close resemblance to like a Luke Skywalker type person. But he's a pilot in the New Republic military, and he ends up working with them through the course of their investigation. And then there's another female senator who I've blanked the name on. But basically, she's also very integral, even though she's kind of like sideline, but she's very integral in what happens. So the main gist of what this book deals with is Princess Leia's paternity. Like, she's the daughter of Darth Vader, and basically it's kind of hanging over her like a cloud, this secret that she is, related to him, and what would happen if that would actually come out. And I really liked the way that they approached it. I felt that that particular part of the story flowed very naturally. It was very organic, and everything that sort of like weaved in and out, and how everything came to a head and was revealed, it was very good. Like, they did a very good job with it. Another part of the story that I really enjoyed was the fact that it was a lot like a mystery novel. Some of my favorite books from the old canon are definitely mystery type, and I really like that. I think that books in particular lead themselves very well to mystery in general, and it's definitely nice to read a nice mystery novel. I don't think I can ever read like Sherlock Holmes, or like like a I want to say like a Murder She Wrote, or something like that. But when it's produced like this, with a fantasy type element or sci-fi, I actually really kind of like it. I mean, think Blade Runner. It's mystery, but it's also set in a sci-fi universe where things aren't just cops and robbers. There's a little bit more that actually goes into it, and I like that. Even though like the story structure really isn't that much different. The basic thing that gets the story started is that a member of, well, an ambassador from a planet that's being sort of harassed by a system local, I want to say like bandit or like crime cartel. They're basically being harassed by them, and they're asking for protection or help, even though they're not necessarily part of the New Republic, but they still feel that the New Republic should investigate it, because if they leave it unchecked, it would end up being like a galaxy-wide power, a lot like the Hutts were when the Empire was in power, and they don't need that. I mean, a crime like that would bring it would bring a lot of bad news for the Republic. So Leia goes off to investigate, and she's also joined by the centrist Senator Ransom Casterfo, who, when you look at them at first, like, they're very, very distinctly separate from each other. They're very opposite. I mean, Princess Leia is, she's a war veteran. She's clearly on the side of freedom. She wants people to have the power to choose for themselves. And where when you first get a look at Ransom Casterfo, he's got an office full of Imperial type collectibles like helmets and armors and uniforms of like the Imperial officer, and you sort of get the feeling that he could fit very well into that kind of lifestyle. But as they progress through the actual story, you learn a lot more about each of the characters, or they learn a lot about each other, and they actually build a friendship, and they start to realize that they're not really um, who everyone else says they are. But then, obviously the big secrets come out. And as far as that goes, it is very interesting to see like how they approach that situation and like how much of an effect it had on Princess Leia and like everything when the news of her parent being Darth Vader came out. Apparently Olivia wanted to bring in her 2 cents, but she hasn't quite finished the book, and so I wouldn't necessarily trust her opinion, at least not just yet. But uh, uh, anyway, it's definitely a very interesting thing, and it's like a drastic change. I mean, it's like if a politician in today's day and age actually had to deal with something like that, I feel like a lynch mob would gather up and like destroy that person. But anyway, no, it's definitely very interesting, and it touches on the fact that it's going to affect Ben very much, and Leia is very torn up about like what to do because she hasn't told Ben. The only people that know are like the core group of people from the old Rebel Alliance, like Admiral Akbar, Mon Mothma, Han Solo, Luke, um, uh, Lando Calrissian. Those are basically the people that knew. No one else knows. Like not even like her closest friends in the Senate knew, and so it was very, it was a very big blow to her and her reputation. Either way, they did handle it very well. And one of the biggest things that I have to say is that I wish the book was longer. I mean, it's already like it's already pretty like hefty. Like it's not a bad sized novel. And again, like Star Wars Bloodline by Claudia Gray. I don't remember if I said that at the beginning. Anyway, I'll go over that again when I end it. But no, I wish that it was a lot longer. I honestly hope that either another author or Claudia herself writes more to the story. The way that it ends, setting up basically the beginning of the resistance, it's definitely interesting, and I want to see more about it. And I want to know more about like how the First Order is formed because it definitely starts touching on that. Like basically, they're this close to finding out like that where the First Order is coming from and how closely related to the different parties of the Senate the First Order is also related to. That I wanted to read more, so it definitely kept me in the book. And although the book was released like I want to say like a month or so ago, it took me a while to get through it. And it's only because like my work schedule doesn't really allow me to read very often. And my coworkers would make fun of me because like I'd bring it to read on my breaks, but then I would never take a break, or if I took a break, I would never actually get to read it or not read very much because I would only sit down for like 5 minutes. But anyway, I definitely recommend the book. If you were a fan of the older series of Star Wars books, then I think that this one would be definitely a good place to jump into when it comes into the new canon. So again, it's Star Wars Bloodline by Claudia Gray. It's set roughly, I want to say, 20 years after not the Empire Strikes Back, but Return of the Jedi. There are a small handful of books so far. There's Lost Stars, which I think deals with the Battle of Jakku, and then there's The Aftermath, which is a trilogy that I haven't picked up either, but I really want to because I'm sort of like in that mode where I'm like dying for information about like how they're building this new canon, and if this is any indication about what they want to do with it, then I'm on board. But anyway, let me know down in the comments, like, have you read this book? Have you read any of the other books in the new canon? What do you think? Like, how do you feel that they actually compare to the old canon that was introduced? Like books like Heir to the Empire, Darksaber, Courtship of Princess Leia, Shadows of the Empire. I mean, what do you feel these bring to the table that those didn't? Or do you feel like this is sort of lacking in comparison? I mean, it's definitely kind of interesting to see like how the universe is going to unfold for Star Wars in this new canon, um, in comparison to the way that it unfolded in the old canon, because they definitely favored Han, Luke, and Leia. And even though, like, towards the later books in the series, they had, the triplets, or the Luke, Han and Leia's three children, and like Luke and his Jedi Academy and everything like that. And I really kind of want to go back and read some of those old novels and sort of look at things that they did and sort of draw comparisons to the way that they're doing the new series, because I want to sort of see like if they actually pulled any information from that, and it'd be kind of interesting to see if like characters that were created in the extended universe popped up in the new movies, just in a different way, or even in the same way. I don't know. I feel like that would be very interesting to find out. But again, let me know down in the comments what you think. Have you read this book? What do you think about it? Have you read any other books in the new canon? And also just give me a like, thumbs up if you like it. It definitely lets me know if people like certain content that I'm doing, especially as I'm sort of new and trying to figure out sort of like how I want to attack this. It sort of lets me know like what I can do more to get you better content, or just content that you really like. But anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye. So just a little thing that I wanted to point out, that there is actually a typo. If you go to page 264, now I sound like some sort of like teacher, but if you go to page 264 and you read it, it basically says, she realized that what probably meant, but didn't fully believe it until her leave was approved. But yeah, so that what probably, honestly, it's just a simple one. It's meant to be like, she realized that's what it probably meant, but it's just a weird, is that like a syntax segment? It's just grammar. I found it funny. Hi, everybody. Don't forget, like, comment, and subscribe down below. Let me know what you think, and let me know if you like this type of content. I always like to see what people think, and I always appreciate any sort of comments or suggestions. But we'll talk to you guys later. Bye. I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing right now.